everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Positive Proof Podcast. I'm your host, Parmis, and I'm so glad that you're here. If you want to listen to more episodes like this one on self-improvement, mindset, and wellness, go ahead and hit that follow button to join the family. I have my cup of peppermint tea. It's snowing outside and it's extremely cold here in Toronto. So there is nothing I'd rather be doing than recording this podcast all cozied up. I have my pink robe on as well. And actually, I was checking the stats for Positive Proof and I was shocked that most of my listeners are actually outside of Toronto. So shout out to anyone who is tuning in from Los Angeles, Houston, Dallas, Phoenix, Chicago. You guys actually made it to my top 5. And I just want to say thank you and that I'm very jealous you guys have warmer weather. Well, those of you from Chicago, I know you feel me, but everywhere else, I hope you're enjoying the sun and soaking it all up for the both of us. But anyways, I am so excited you're here with me today for a deep dive into the world of navigating change in your 20s, whether you're 20, 25, 29, or anywhere in between, or even beyond. This episode is for anyone who's dealing with the ups, downs, and unexpected twists that come with this transformative decade. I'll be honest, your 20s can sometimes feel like you're on a roller coaster that never quite stops. One minute you're excited by all the possibilities life has to offer and you're dreaming of new careers, new relationships, new cities. Then in the very next moment, you're overwhelmed by decisions and self-doubt or the nagging feeling that you're somehow behind everyone else. And trust me, I've been there and I've actually fallen into depression as a result of being there. A year and a half ago, I was actually dealing with so much change that my mental health was seriously impacted. So I feel like I'm pretty qualified to talk about this and all the things that I've learned so far. We're going to cover everything from embracing the unpredictability of life to building resilience to finding and maintaining relationships that truly support your growth. And we'll also talk about dealing with the fear of missing out and how to take better care of your mental health and emotional health along the way. And just a disclaimer that these points aren't a perfect guide. Let's be honest, there's no such thing, but they might help you feel a little bit more grounded. And I think that is better than nothing. So my hope is that by the end of this episode, you'll walk away with fresh perspectives, a sense of relief that you're allowed to be exactly where you are, and maybe even some excitement about where you're headed next. So let's dive right in. We're going to start with something I wish I had fully understood when I first entered my 20s. And that is the fact that life is unpredictable and that is okay. So let me break it down for you. For many of us, high school and college can be fairly structured environments. We move from one grade to the next, then maybe from undergrad to grad school or from an internship into a first job. And everything has a certain sense of order. But once we leave these formal systems, we realize that life doesn't always present a clear set of next steps. Suddenly, it's up to us to figure out who we are and what we want to do, and that can be both exhilarating and terrifying. This is exactly why we often hit that quarter-life crisis that everyone refers to by the age of 25, because we go into this panic mode for not knowing where we're headed and what our next plan is. So one of the first lessons in embracing unpredictability is recognizing how little control we actually have over external circumstances. Sure, we can set goals and make plans and work hard, but sometimes life just happens and you need to leave room for that. Companies downsize, relationships shift, health issues arise, or new opportunities appear out of the blue. And when we cling to the notion that we have to orchestrate and predict every single outcome, we set ourselves up for disappointment and stress. So letting go of the illusion of control, it doesn't mean we stop planning or dreaming. It just means we remain open to the possibility that, plan A might turn into plan B or C or even Z. And that can still be beautiful. The more you try to control every single thing in your life, the higher the chance for the downfall of your mental health. Because life has contingencies, and that's literally what makes life life. And the sooner you can accept that, the more resilient you will become to change and the better you will become at managing contingencies. Now, what I want you to do is, instead of fearing the unknown, try viewing it as let's say, fertile ground for growth. Think about it. Real change and personal development, they rarely happen when everything is predictable. It's truly in those awkward and messy and sometimes painful transitions that we learn the most about ourselves. For example, Let's say you decide to move to a new city for a job opportunity. You arrive and it's not exactly what you expected. Maybe your workplace isn't as supportive, or you struggle to make friends as quickly as you'd hoped. And I get it. While that can be discouraging, it teaches you adaptability, resourcefulness, and resilience. Because you are forced into a situation where you need to make it work. So you work with those circumstances to get by, or you build that emotional strength to combat the discouragement, or you take additional steps to work around this new opportunity. There's a concept in mindfulness known as beginner's mind, which means approaching each situation as if you're seeing it for the first time, without preconceived notions or judgments. And in your 20s, you're actually going to find yourself doing a lot of the things that you do for the first time. So signing a lease, navigating serious relationships, dealing with taxes, I know, so boring, applying for certain jobs, or even booking a flight by yourself to a very far off place. And you need to accept that you are allowed to be new at these things. You don't have to know how to do everything. You learn along the way. So embrace that learning curve and don't beat yourself up if it takes a little while to get it right. In fact, letting yourself be a beginner, it can actually unlock a sense of excitement and keep you from feeling burnt out when things get tricky. So you don't need to know how to do everything. You can be lost. You have permission to be lost. You can make mistakes, and you can also ask for help. Again, because it is most likely your first time doing a lot of the things that you're doing in your 20s. One of the best ways to handle life's twists and turns is to stay flexible. And this is a very important skill that you will need to work on if it's not already a strength of yours. Just like how important discipline is, flexibility is also just as important. And if you want to navigate change in your life, that's where the flexibility comes in. For example, if a job doesn't work out, it's really not the end of the world. It might be a sign to explore something else. Or if a relationship fails, it doesn't mean you're unlovable. It could mean you're learning what you truly need in a partner. Flexibility, it allows you to pivot rather than get stuck in one place. I'm going to say that again. Flexibility allows you to pivot rather than get stuck in one place. Your 20s are a time when pivoting can be incredibly beneficial. You can discover a whole new passion or path that you never considered if you just remain open. 2 years ago, I decided to quit my 9-to-5 job in marketing and pursue social media full time. And I was actually doing it for about a year before I decided I wanted to go back to working. And some people might think, okay, well, she wasted a whole entire year only to get back to working the same 9-to-5 job in marketing. But that's not how I see it. I see it as I pivoted in my career to learn and understand what I want and look for when it comes to employment. And now I know that I'm the type of person that likes structure and security and stability. And so now that I'm back working at my marketing job, I do it with confidence and I do it with assurance that I'm in the right spot in life. Because I explored something that was always a question for me. So I explored it and I experienced it. And then I came to the conclusion that it wasn't for me. At least not in this stage of my life that I'm in right now. I can go to bed at night, not ever regretting that I didn't take that leap because I was flexible. Learning to embrace the unpredictability of your 20s sets the stage for all other aspects of personal growth. And it's the foundation that reminds you that you're never too late and that you can always choose a different route. It normalizes the idea that life can be messy, but still amazing. And more than anything, it gives you permission to be exactly where you're at, uncertain, curious, and ready for what's next. Even if you don't have it all planned out. Now, let's talk about one of the most common feelings in your 20s, FOMO, or fear of missing out. I'm sure you've heard of it before. Now that social media is everywhere, we constantly see friends, acquaintances, or influencers living perfect lives, traveling the world, landing dream jobs, getting engaged, or hitting major life milestones. And I get it. It is so easy to feel like you're not doing enough, going out enough, or not measuring up in some way. And while it's normal to experience a bit of envy or curiosity about other people's adventures, FOMO can be extremely toxic if it starts driving your decisions or making you feel like you're not enough. The first big hurdle with FOMO is the sneaking suspicion that you're behind everyone else. But I just want to ask you, behind according to whom? If you look more closely, you're going to realize everyone follows a different timeline. Someone might get married at 22, while someone else might not even want to think about marriage until 35. And another person might be climbing the corporate ladder, whereas someone else wants to be a digital nomad. When you internalize the idea that you should be on a certain path by a certain age, you are essentially giving your power away to societal expectations that might not even align with your true desires. Now, social media is a major source of FOMO, so consider doing a digital detox or a curation of who you follow. If certain accounts make you feel anxious or like you're not good enough, it is perfectly okay to unfollow or mute them. I actually love my unfollow feature, and I use my unfollow feature all the time because that's what it's for. Just because I like you in real life, it doesn't mean I like the content you post. And I'd hope that you wouldn't take that personally. So instead, what you're going to do is you're going to follow accounts that inspire you, educate you, or make you laugh. Remember, social media is a curated highlight reel, and you're usually not seeing the messy behind the scene moments of anyone's life. Nobody saw me having a breakdown the other day because I was working for 12 hours and overwhelmed by the remainder of work I had left, because I'm not going to come post that stuff online. My page is to inspire and entertain and motivate people. And while I love being open with people and being authentic, I don't want to be posting the opposite because that's not the goal of my main page. And that's just the norm. So as long as you also know that, you'll know that everyone is going through a tough time at some point and you just don't see it. Often FOMO happens because we assume we should be doing what everyone else is doing, but why? Why do I need to follow the same footsteps as Jane Doe? I'm Parmis. I have my own steps to follow. I have my own life to curate, my own plan of action. Most people, what they do is they see people going clubbing every weekend and they think, am I boring if I don't join? But if that's not genuinely your scene, pushing yourself to participate won't bring you authentic joy. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. You're going to go and you're going to feel miserable. I actually went through a phase like this myself where I thought, do I have an old mentality because I don't like clubbing every weekend? So I'd forced myself to go so that I could feel this superficial joy that was followed by misery the next day. And I'm so glad that this FOMO didn't last long. Otherwise, what a waste of time that would have been for me. And don't get me wrong, I love to have a drink and dance to good music every once in a while, but definitely not your average club on an average weekend. That's just not for me. And if you like that, by all means, enjoy that. But if you don't force yourself to enjoy it like I did. So instead, define what success and fun and fulfillment, what they mean to you. Maybe you thrive on small gatherings with close friends, or you'd rather spend time learning a new skill, hiking, or playing music. When you live in an alignment with your personal values, the fear of missing out diminishes because you're no longer chasing someone else's version of a good time. The more confident you are, the less you're going to have that fear of missing out as well. So pay attention to your confidence levels. Now, the opposite of FOMO can be thought of as JOMO, the joy of missing out. And let me just say, when you get to this point, oh my goodness. All I can say is heck yes. It's the best feeling ever. It's that delicious feeling you get when you realize you don't have to say yes to everything. You can protect your energy, save your money, or just enjoy a quiet night in when you need it. You block out all noise from this very noisy world and get to enjoy your own peace, and there is truly nothing better. I do have to say, though, that adopting JOMO, it doesn't mean you'll never go out or try new experiences. It just means that you're very selective about what truly serves you. By saying no to the things that aren't a great fit, you free up energy for the opportunities that genuinely excite you. Now, another way to mitigate FOMO is to look at the bigger picture. Sometimes turning down a fun trip, it might help you save money for a bigger dream, like moving abroad or starting a business. Or skipping a weekend party could give you the extra rest you need to excel at work or in your personal projects. And this is so important because nowadays everyone is so preoccupied by what to do in that moment. They blow all their money in that moment because, they deserve to travel because they're in their 20s, as if they don't have any future to think about. So please be smarter with your life. Don't just think about the now. Be proactive. Recognize that Every yes and no shapes your trajectory. And while there's room for spontaneity and fun in your 20s, a strategic lens can help you decide when an opportunity truly aligns with your values and goals, or when it's simply a FOMO-fueled impulse. So overcoming FOMO is really about trust. Trusting your own path, your timing, and your capacity to find joy in what resonates with you. And once you get comfortable with the idea that you're not missing out by being true to yourself, you're going to find a lot more peace and contentment, even in the age of endless scrolling. Okay, next up we have resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from setbacks, adapt to new challenges, and keep moving forward, even when the road gets rocky. It's really deeply connected to having a growth mindset, which is the belief that our abilities and intelligence can be developed rather than seeing them as fixed traits. Now, one indicator of a growth mindset is seeing failure as a learning opportunity instead of a dead end. If you get rejected from a job, struggle with a new skill, or experience a breakup, you need to ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Instead of laying around in self-pity or labeling yourself as a failure, reframe that situation. Maybe you can sharpen your interview skills or realize you need to aim for a different role that aligns better with your strengths. Maybe a failed relationship exposes areas for personal growth or clarifies what you actually need from a partner. I was in a very unhappy relationship for 1.5 years before I finally decided to take what I learned from it and walk away. And I don't regret the relationship or hate the person for contributing to an unhappy relationship, because it taught me what I need to know in order to be madly in love and happy in my now current relationship. I can do a separate episode on this next week, but point is, take that downfall or take that failure and learn from it. Grow from it. Another thing is, when I first learned to see no as a not yet or not here, it was so extremely liberating. All of a sudden, a rejection wasn't a personal critique. It was more like the universe was saying, this path isn't for you at the moment, so try a different direction. That mindset shift gives you the momentum to keep exploring instead of giving up at the first roadblock. Now, if you feel you don't have resilience, there are some practical ways to cultivate it. So the first thing is to set incremental goals. If you have a big dream, like starting a business or changing careers, break it down into smaller, achievable steps and map it out. Start with the first one. You're going to celebrate each milestone, no matter how small, and this constant reinforcement that you're making progress will help you stay motivated through those challenges. Another thing you can do is build a support system. Resilience isn't developed in isolation. You need to lean on your friends or mentors or family or even online communities for advice and encouragement. You need to surround yourself with people who believe in your ability to grow and adapt, rather than those who discourage you or belittle your aspirations. Another way to build resilience, and this might sound cliche, but resilience actually has a physical component. Regular exercise, a balanced diet, and adequate sleep all contribute to your mental stability and energy levels. And this actually applies to everything else in life. When your physical health is in check, you are able to do a million other things that you probably wouldn't be able to do if your physical health wasn't in check. So when your body is run down, it's harder to cope with stress or bounce back from setbacks. So prioritize your health and trust me, just trust me, everything else will become so much easier. If you're having a hard time with your diet and fitness, I can also do a separate episode on that, but just pay closer attention to it. Another thing you can do is develop emotional regulation skills. This one's a tough one for me, and I actually really look up to my boyfriend for this one because he is so good at regulating his emotions. Essentially, what I'm talking about is the ability to identify and manage your emotions in a healthy way, being able to make logical decisions without your emotions interfering, and being able to basically not act on impulse or really any other emotion that might alter your behavior. For example, when I'm angry or sad or worried, my world used to go blank. I couldn't do anything because my emotions were so intense and I was unable to regulate my emotions and everything I was feeling. But on the other hand, if my boyfriend is angry or upset, he can go about his day and still show me love and do the things he needs to do without his emotions really impacting any of that. And let me say this. You are far less likely to be knocked off course by negative feelings if you have the tools to process them. And you can process them better by going through mindfulness practices like meditation or journaling or therapy. For me, Joe Dispenza meditation practices really helped. Now, resilience also requires taking the long view of life because your 20s are a very important decade, but they're not the only decade. You are not supposed to figure everything out right now. And if you adopt a marathon mindset and understand that personal growth and success unfold over many years, you can actually cut yourself some slack when things don't happen instantly. This perspective shift can reduce so much of your anxiety, and it can actually increase your patience, both of which feed into resilience. And of course, I talked about this earlier, but adopting the word yet can be so transformative. Instead of saying, I'm not good at public speaking, you're going to say, I'm not good at public speaking yet. And that tiny addition shifts your perspective from a fixed statement to a dynamic one. It reminds you that you're in a continuous process of becoming. So just to reemphasize, by building resilience and fostering a growth mindset, you're essentially giving yourself the green light to try, to fail, to learn, and to try again. And this approach makes navigating the uncertainties of your 20s much more manageable. And dare I say, sometimes even fun. Okay, moving on. Change in your 20s isn't just about careers and personal goals. It's also about shifts in your social circles and intimate relationships. This decade can, involve friends moving away or relationships evolving and new connections forming. It's a very unique window where you can truly start to define who you want around you and focus on people who elevate you or challenge you positively and respect your boundaries. Or on the flip side, realize that certain friendships or relationships are no longer serving you. Your friendship dynamics from high school or college might shift dramatically in your 20s. And actually for me, this was a huge thing that I had to deal with when I was 21 years old, which I'll get into very soon. Some friends might be on a fast track to marriage and parenthood, while others are backpacking across continents. Meanwhile, you're working a 9-to-5, or maybe you're starting your own business. You might feel the sting of drifting apart from people who were once like family, but it's natural to grieve those changes. It's also part of growth. We all follow different paths in life, and I see the majority of friendships as, I call it situational. Now, back to my experience with social friends. I actually had a big group of friends from high school, and we were friends for like 7 years and hung out all the time and basically grew up together. And I'm not going to sit here and talk bad about them because it's not a matter of bashing people or holding people accountable for a friendship breakup. I actually wish them all well, but I'm also really glad that I stepped away from that friendship group. Why? Because it wasn't serving me. It was hurting me. And it was holding me back from all the growth that I then achieved after walking away. From all the confidence that I gained after walking away, from all the friendship opportunities that I was presented after walking away. So things might not have worked out, but I'm glad they didn't. And I don't hold a grudge for it either, because in turn, I got to become this amazing, independent, strong, ambitious, and happy woman that I maybe wouldn't have become as a result of staying friends with people who did not align with the lifestyle I wanted to live or the person that I wanted to become. So I encourage you, instead of forcing old friendships to look the same forever, give each other permission to evolve. Some connections will withstand life transitions with grace, adjusting to new time zones and new life stages, and others will fade quietly. Both outcomes can be okay. This openness leaves room for new people to enter your life, people who resonate with who you're becoming now, not who you were at 17. Now, boundaries protect your well-being and the integrity of your relationships. In your 20s, you might find that you're going to need more time boundaries. For example, not being available 24/7 to friends or colleagues, or emotional boundaries, only discussing certain topics when you feel safe and comfortable. Sometimes establishing a boundary can cause friction if people aren't used to you saying no. But remember, boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're guidelines that help relationships stay healthy and respectful. And the people who truly care care about you, they are going to adjust. For me, that friend group that I walked away from, part of the final kind of reason that ultimately had me decide to walk away was the inability to respect my emotional boundaries. If someone doesn't feel comfortable talking about something, especially personal beliefs, then you as a respectful, caring friend should completely understand and not let it dictate the status of your friendship. Now, beyond friendships, your 20s often bring about significant shifts in your romantic life too. And, some folks meet their life partners early on, others date multiple people to figure out what they need. Some prioritize career or personal development and decide to put romance on the back burner. All of these paths are valid. And if you're in a relationship, communication is key, especially as you both grow and change. So if you find yourself growing in different directions, it doesn't automatically mean failure. It might just mean having honest conversations about future goals and whether you can adjust your paths to remain aligned. From personal experience, it took me dating my ex for 4 years before realizing we were not compatible and that I was simply just not in love anymore for me to find exactly what I was missing in my new boyfriend of now, a year and a half we've been dating. And for those who are single, don't let external pressures rush you into something that doesn't feel right. Your 20s can be a very prime opportunity to learn about yourself, what you value in a partner, what kind of life you want to build, and what red flags or deal breakers you need to be mindful of. A relationship is meant to enhance your life, not complete it. You are already whole. Now, we've touched on 4 major points today that I believe capture the essence of navigating change in your 20s. First being embracing the unpredictability of your 20s. So let go of the illusion of control, see the unknown as a space for growth, stay flexible, and approach new experiences with a beginner's mind. Then we covered overcoming the fear of missing out. So recognize that everyone has a different timeline, curate your social media, define your own idea of success and fun, and embrace the joy of missing out when it aligns with your deeper goals. Then we talked about building resilience and a growth mindset. So view failures as feedback, cultivate supportive habits, and remember that you can develop and learn new skills at any stage. Today's not good at it can easily become not good at it yet. And finally, we talked about cultivating relationships that support your growth. So understand that friendships and romantic relationships shift. And with that said, set boundaries, find mentors and allies, and protect your energy by surrounding yourself with people who respect you and uplift you. I do want to remind you though, that there's no one size fits all approach to life in your 20s. We are all just figuring it out, often in real time and sometimes stumbling along the way. And that's perfectly okay. If you take anything away from this episode, let it be this. Number 1, you're allowed to change course. You can start down one path and realize it's not for you, then pivot to something else because that's not failure, it's growth. Number 2, you're allowed to question societal timelines. If you don't get your dream job or your dream partner by a certain age, you're not behind, you're on your own journey and it's valid. Number 3, you're allowed to want more adventure, more creativity, more authenticity, more peace. Whatever it is, you can pursue it, even if it means breaking from conventional norms. Number 4, you're allowed to want less drama, less obligation, fewer frenetic social plans. If that's what your soul needs, embrace it. And number 5, you're allowed to be a work in progress. In fact, you will always be a work in progress, no matter your age. Until next time, remember your 20s are a season of growth, of experimentation, and yes, sometimes chaos, but they're also an opportunity to craft the person you want to be. Keep showing up for yourself and stay open to the lessons that life is offering, and trust that you'll have all the tools you need to navigate these waters with optimism and with resilience. But that is a wrap. I do hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please leave a review. Your feedback means so much to me. The more people this podcast reaches, the bigger the positive impact we make. So I'd love it if you could do that. Also, if you guys have any recommendations as to what you'd like me to talk about in future episodes, definitely let me know because I am 100% open to recording what you guys want to hear. And if you don't know yet, I do monthly giveaways where a random person will be selected from those of you who do leave a review. The written reviews can be done over on Apple Podcasts and the ratings can be done on Spotify. Just send me a screenshot once you've done so and you'll be eligible to win. The winner will be announced on Instagram at Positive Proof Podcast. And if you want an extra entry into the giveaway, make sure to share this podcast or episode via socials and tag me at Parmis Najmi and again at Positive Proof Podcast on Instagram. To everyone else, if you've made it this far, I appreciate you so, so much. And I can't wait to chat with you again in next week's episode. Lots of love, Parmis.